joining us now, as he does every Tuesday, though normally there's a guy who doesn't have the fantastic hair sitting in this seat. Three-time Super Bowl champ Mark Schlereth is with us. Mark, a lot I want to get into with you coming off of last night's game. Let's start with the Bills. They were 4-0. They seem to be cruising. They were everybody's Super Bowl pick. The last couple weeks have been a little bit bumpy. What do you make of what's going on right now in Buffalo?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of things. One, you throw a couple of picks, one in the red zone last night. Those things always come back to haunt you. They're inexcusable, but most of the time you look at those picks that are thrown, you get under duress. There's under pressure throws that you make, and those things affect the way you play the game as well. You're everybody's target because you're the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen won a MVP last year, so you're heightened awareness of the teams you play. You're everyone's best shot. And there's always something with the Bills right now over the last 2 weeks that have been, kind of what has cost them a game. Obviously, they couldn't stop the running game. Bijan Robinson last night. So that was big. And then you feel like it gets you out of what you do. When I watch the Bills, they have become a very balanced team. They run the ball exceptionally well. They take a lot of pressure and create a lot of play action opportunities for their quarterback. And when you're behind or things aren't going the way you want them to go, you tend to get a little pressed on the offensive side of the ball. So there are a couple of things, but I would tell you this, Tom. I mean, offensive football has been, dare I say, in the AFC so up and down, at times atrocious. And I don't know if you watched that Jets Broncos game, but it set offensive football back into the leather helmet days. I mean, it was so bad. So there is a lot of that. It's endemic of the National Football League because of our failures to make guys practice in pads, to actually execute the game and work on the game, because we have taken a lot of the physicality out of the game under the guise of, hey, we've got to keep our players safe. So there's a lot of that is continuing to me to manifest in really poor play across the board.
I've heard that so many times, Mark. And of course, in your days playing, in my early days covering the league over 20 years ago, it was first day of training camp, 8:45 shells, 3 o'clock pads. However the coaches structured it, it was true 2-a-day type of environment. Now, of course, you've got the ramp-up period. There are teams that fundamentally don't believe in going live at all and have a lot of unpadded days through the course. When you talk about the failure to develop and the failure to have that time on test, what does that mean? What is the impact that we actually see, particularly in the early stages of the season here?
Hey, how many quarterbacks are hurt right now?
Too many.
I mean, I had Roger. I was calling a game a year ago, and standing on the sideline, pregame, talking to Roger Goodell, and he's like, "Hey, what are we going to do about all these quarterback injuries?" Well, I got an idea. Make the guys up front practice. Like I say this all the time, and I'll say it to you, Tom. The most skilled position in football is the offensive line. It's the only position in any sport where you're matched up against an unlike athlete, where the guy that's across from you is as big and as strong as you are, but he's exponentially more gifted as an athlete than you are. And you're expected to win 100 out of 100 matchups, 65 for 65. And if you give up one sack, you've had a horrible game, and that guy's going to the Pro Bowl. And, if a 6'3" point guard blows by an NBA 7-foot center, we don't go, man, that center sucks at defense. We got to get him off the court. No, you got a great matchup. We don't put heavyweights against welterweights in boxing, but that is the equivalent. Like, you have got to be, and it's 5 guys that have to be tied together and have to be doing the same thing and having the same communication and knowing exactly what they're getting. And they are, from an athletic standpoint, I mean, offensive line, we are the worst athletes collectively on the football field without question. And so every step, every nuanced hand position, where you want to block guys, all that stuff has to be developed. It has to be worked on, and it can't be worked on in a walkthrough. It doesn't work that way. And so you see it, and you see diminishing skill set of that position, diminishing development of that position. And then you see the results of that, or quarterbacks are injured. That, like, you can't, all these things kind of pile on. And, I know we're the golden goose and I know we're Teflon and all those things, but eventually will it cost the NFL viewership? Right now, it doesn't look like it, but eventually we look at it like, wow, this is just a really bad product.
Mark Schlereth is our guest, host of the Stinkin Truth podcast. Also, I noticed right there, it says on the bottom of the screen, Mark, good luck for you. You've got the Jets again this week. Panthers at Jets for Fox. A two-part question. One, is the Jets offense fixable? And two, have you ever seen an end-of-half situation managed the way that Aaron Glenn did on Sunday?
No. To answer your first question or actually your second question, the end of the half management where the clock just ran out and you had 20 some odd seconds. And it just was like, at that point, it was just like, it is so bad that let's just get into the locker room and have orange slices. And, maybe we can, I don't know what, that game was so bad. Fixing the offense, that's an interesting question. Justin Fields, I think, is it fixable? Yeah, but you're going to have to depart on what you're doing right now. This is not Detroit. This is not Jared Goff. This is Justin Fields, and he is not ready for prime time when it comes to being a drop back quarterback and basically picking a defense apart. And I know there were 9 sacks, and I know that he was under a lot of duress, no question about it. But at the same, as I talk, the same token, you got to get rid of the football. Got to get the ball out of your hands. And there are so many times where his inability to decide and him holding the football and deciding not to let it eat and, waiting for a receiver to turn around and look at him before he throws the ball. Like, you don't have that kind of time. So you have got to put him in a position of strength, which is what? It's the boot keep game. It's the waggle out the front side game. It's the quarterback design runs, the RPO where you have actually one read. You got a one read route. I think you have to put him in a position where he can excel. And what you're doing right now, or at least what you did on Sunday, is not the kind of offense that he's going to thrive under.
Other side of that game, the Broncos, who are 4-2, they're tied atop the AFC West at this point. The offense, though, so far, Mark, has been pretty up and down. That team's in your backyard. How good are the 2025 Denver Broncos?
Offensively right now, they're struggling. And, there's this narrative out there that they have the best offensive line in football, and that's just garbage. They just have so many, busts, inability to identify linebackers and safeties and who they're going to. That game on Sunday was a debacle. I mean, a debacle. And there were so many mistakes. The first 3 plays of the game, you're in a I formation. You motion the fullback out of the backfield. The linebackers correspondingly move a little bit. And your left guard, Matt Pert, who was starting for the first time, it's almost like the linebacker moved, and now it's all of a sudden like, well, since he moved, I don't have to block him anymore. I don't know. Did he have the Harry Potter cloak of invisibility on? I don't understand. Your inability to identify who you've got and how to get to that guy was alarming. And sometimes it's a matter of for Sean Payton. I know you like to be very multiple in your run game and have a big menu, but you got to small up and simple down because your guys can't handle it right now. So the first 3 plays of that game, I mean, you practiced all week, you developed it all week. The first 3 plays of the game were there were 2 busts and a fumble. You've got your first 15, yeah. You have coached it, you have walked through it, you have done it all, and then all of a sudden we get out there like we've never played before. And that was kind of how that whole day went. And I'll tip my cap to the Jets because they set the tone, man. They put a physical ass whooping on the Broncos across the board, from receivers to DBs, from offensive line to defensive line, from linebackers to running, everybody. They set the tone physically, and the Broncos never actually responded. So I'll tip my cap to the Jets for that, but there were a lot of mental mistakes across the board they're just unacceptable.
I found myself looking this up last night, Mark, as the Bills were kind of having that game get away from the preseason betting odds to be the Super Bowl champion. There were 3 co-favorites coming into the season. It was the Bills, it was the Ravens, and it was the Eagles. Three teams that have varying degrees right now of issues they've got to sort through. In your mind, right now, there's no undefeateds left after 6 weeks, which is a pretty rarity, too. Is there a favorite? Is there one team that, above all, you say, I wouldn't want to see that team come January, February?
Just last week, I said it was Detroit, and then all of a sudden, Kansas City looks like they figured it out. But Kansas City looked like they figured it out 2 weeks ago, and then they go to Jacksonville on a Monday night and lose the game. No, there is no dominant team. Like if parity was your goal in the NFL, with the draft and the way you do things, and then, first to worst, from a scheduling standpoint and strength of schedule, if parity was your goal, you certainly have achieved it. Because there is no dominant team out there in the NFL right now.
If you're talking about, that game too, and the way that it ended with the Lions and the Chiefs, there's the occasional situation, right, that plays out post-game. There's some type of an instant. The NFL has been trying to eradicate those from the game. But I'm curious, Mark, in all your years, did you ever think about or actually do, going and popping somebody in the face for something that happened during the game?
No, but we did it during the game. Like in the game, there was, back in those days, there was a little bit of frontier justice. And, if you did something in the game that was deemed dirty, or was deemed like, hey man, that's crossing the line, then we got to take care of it. And, and it wasn't officiated to the point where, everybody's getting ejected or those things. Like there was that aspect of, we're going to get you within the context of these, 4 quarters. You're going to get yours as well. And, and that's how things got kind of rectified. And so I don't know, maybe now without that, and everything seems to be a penalty, and, and physicality is fined. I mean, it's so interesting to me. I was doing a game the other day, and, like social media went crazy because I was like, oh, come on, helmet to helmet. Like it's not that runner wasn't, that he wasn't, he was, he took 3 or 4 steps. He turned up the field, like he wasn't defenseless. It's like, come on, what are we doing? And so it was helmet to helmet, and that's a 15-yard penalty. And I'm like, I could show you 7, 10, 12 other of exactly those plays. They just didn't sound as loud. Like, we flagged anything that sounds loud. Like maybe somebody could get hurt. We'll flag it. I don't know. At some point, we all signed up to play the game. We understand how violent the game is. Everybody signed up. Everybody knows the consequence of playing the game. And I'm all for player safety to a degree, but you can't take physicality out of the equation. It still has to be. You can't litigate contact out of a contact sport. At some point, you have to realize that we all signed up for it, and we're all out here, and let's just let the guys play.
When the players get faster and faster, their pads get smaller and smaller. You got wide receivers who essentially have no type of padding from the waist down out there. And yeah, depending where you get hit, there's going to be some type of an outcome. Even in the college game I was watching the other day, there was a targeting call where the defender, from everything I can see, lines him up with a shoulder. It is shoulder to shoulder. The guy's head snaps back. He's thrown out of the game. I mean, again, to your point, player safety is extremely important, but there are times where, just from a physics standpoint, I find it hard to believe that we can avoid certain types of things that by the letter of the law are a foul, and, intent apparently is not part of the equation.
Yeah, some of those things, there's nothing you can do about it, and it's just part of the game. And like I always say, and this is offensive to a lot of people, there's a reason that not everybody can play in the National Football League. One, hand to God, you're not gifted enough to play, and 2, you don't have balls enough to play. And that's just a fact. Like, that, just the way it is. Like, there's some guys, they can go out there and can do those things, and there are a lot of people who can't. And look, man, I'm not mad at the people who can't. They just understand that this is what we sign up for. And every guy as a player understands that it's not if, it's when. There's a 100% likelihood that you're going to get injured. It's just the way the game operates. And like, we know the consequences now. Like, it's out in the open, right? There is CTE and there is head injuries and there is trauma and there are we've seen some brutal injuries. That Tyreek Hill injury is as brutal as any injury I've ever watched. But I understand, like, we're still going to line up and play because that's what we signed up for. So I'm all for player safety, but at some point it still has to resemble football. And I'm not saying that it doesn't, but we just get further and further and further away, under the whole kind of guise of, hey man, we want to keep everybody healthy.
Mark, great stuff, man. We appreciate it. Enjoy that Jets offense again on Sunday.
Yeah, it's gonna be beautiful. I appreciate that.
That is Mark Schlereth. You can hear him on the
Thanks, Mark.
Stinkin Truth podcast. See him calling the game on Fox this weekend. Always great stuff.
Hey, you made it all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Check us out every single day streaming live on Disney Plus and the ESPN app 12 to 3 Eastern.